Welcome back! Today's episode of What's the Deal With, we are going to talk about how to divide fractions using common denominators. I want you to really consider, what does it mean when we divide something? Take, for example, this expression. When I say 6 divided by 2, I'm really asking myself a question of how many 2's are in 6, or how many copies of 2 can be found in 6. This is how we divide. When we think about dividing fractions, we're actually going to think about it the same way. So when I think about this problem, I'm actually going to be asking myself, how many copies of 1/2 can be found in 1? It's really important that you understand this way of thinking before I show you how to divide using common denominators. First, I'm going to start with this rectangle to represent my whole. I need to know how many copies of 1/2 are in it. So what I'm going to be doing is to make it into copies of 1/2. How many copies of 1/2 are in this whole? Well, I can count them. There's 1, 2. So I know that the answer to 1 divided by 1/2 is 2. I want to try drawing another division expression for you, just so you can really conceptually understand what we're doing. So now let's look at 2/3 divided by 1/9. Again, I'm asking myself, how many copies of 1/9 can be found in 2/3? I'm going to start by drawing my 2/3. So you can see that I've modeled my 2/3. I've taken my whole and partitioned it into copies of 1/3. So I have 2 copies of 1/3. Now again, my question that I'm asking myself is, how many copies of 1/9 are in 2/3? Well, in order to figure that out, I'm going to need to see my copies of 1/9. So I'm thinking about, how can I partition this into 9ths? Well, if I partition each one of these thirds into 3, that would give me 3, 6, 9 pieces. I would have 9ths. Now you're able to see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 copies of 1/9. So now I can see that these are my 1/9 pieces. Again, my question is, how many copies of 1/9 are in 2/3? I can count this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 copies of 1/9 in 2/3. My answer would be 6. 2/3 divided by 1/9 would give me 6. Notice that this is not 6/9. I'm asking how many of these 1/9 slices fit inside 2/3. The answer would just be 6 whole 1/9 slices, if you want to think of it that way. Now what I want to do is I want to show you how you do this with common denominators. When you think about what I had to do to my 2/3, I really made all of these into copies of 1/9. I know that to make common denominators, I can multiply my numerator and my denominator by the same number so that I have 9ths. In this case, I would multiply each of them by 3. Now remember, when we make common denominators, we're actually just saying that we're going to cut these into smaller sized pieces. As long as I'm multiplying them by the same number, that's equivalent to me multiplying this by 3 divided by 3, which is 1. So this is why it doesn't change my fraction any. Now I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. So I have 6/9 divided by 1/9. What's crazy about this is, once I have common denominators, well, spoiler alert, we know that the answer is already 6, right? Okay, so think about how I would get 6. If I have 6 as a whole number, what number would be my denominator? 1. You're exactly right. So it turns out that we're actually able to just divide straight across once we have common denominators. 6 divided by 1 over 9 divided by 9. I would get 6 over 1, which again would simplify just to 6. Let's do one more problem that doesn't lend itself as nicely to a model. There are some expressions that won't be as nice to draw, so let's just look at how you could do that without a drawing. I've written 3/5 divided by 1/3. So this one is not going to be as nice of a model to draw, so let's just go ahead and skip right to making those common denominators. I know that 5 and 3 have a common denominator of 15, so I'm going to multiply both of these by 3, and I'm going to multiply 1/3 by 5 over 5. I get 9/15 divided by 5/15. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, this isn't going to be as nice. 9 divided by 5, that's not even. You're right. We're going to have a mixed number in this case. Now, let's divide our numerators and our denominators, and I'm going to write those down just so I don't get myself confused. So I have 9 divided by 5 over 15 divided by 15. Now remember that 15 divided by 15 is 1. So really, my denominator is just over 1. I know that I can divide anything by 1 and it equals whatever that number is that I was dividing it by. So I have 9 divided by 5 over 1. Now don't get confused, right? I'm just showing you this so you can see the progression straight across. Now I need to make 9/5 into a mixed number. I know that there's 5 copies of a fifth in a whole, so I know that I'm going to have 1 whole and 4/5 remaining. So my answer for 3/5 divided by 1/3 would be 1 and 4/5. Now you might be thinking, Marcia, that seemed like a lot of work for dividing fractions. Can't I just keep, change, flip, keep, flip, change, K of C, multiply by the reciprocal? Do I need common denominator? Do you see what I mean? It's good to have other strategies. Dividing with common denominators is one other strategy that you can use to divide fractions. I hope you found this video extra helpful and you now know how to divide fractions using common denominators.